Harry Belafonte, singer, actor, and activist, has died at the age of 96. Singer, actor, and human rights activist Harry Belafonte died Tuesday at the age of 96 of congestive heart failure. He broke racial barriers and balanced his activism with artistry in ways that made people around the world listen. Belafonte, who was an EGOT holder for his Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards, died at his home in New York, his publicist announced. Style, class, and charisma, that was Harry Belafonte as a performer. In the 1950s, his recordings for RCA Victor, which included his iconic version of the Jamaican folk song Day-O, also known as the Banana Boat Song, set off a craze for calypso music. With his good looks and his shirt unbuttoned to his chest, audiences, black and white, adored Belafonte at a time when most of America were still segregated. Belafonte was born in Harlem. His parents were from the Caribbean, his mother was Jamaican, and his father was from the island of Martinique. His mother, who was a cleaning lady, took him back to her native Jamaica, where he absorbed the island's culture. The singer told NPR in 2011 that his recording of the Banana Boat Song was inspired by the vendors he heard singing in the streets. "This song is a work song," he said. "It's about men who sweat all day long and they are underpaid. They're begging for the tallyman to come and give them an honest count. Count the bananas that I've picked so I can be paid." When people sing in delight and dance and love it, they don't really understand unless they study the song, that they're singing a work song that's a song of rebellion. And that song of rebellion was a smash. The album Calypso was a bestseller, holding a spot for the top of Billboard's newly created albums chart for several weeks in 1956. Years earlier, Harry Belafonte dropped out of high school and joined the Navy. After serving in World War II, he was working as a janitor's assistant when someone gave him tickets to a performance at the American Negro Theater. He was riveted. He started training there alongside Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. He also started singing in clubs. Pretty soon, he had a recording contract. In 1954, he won a Tony Award for the revue called John Murray Anderson's Almanac, a musical harlequinade. He starred in movies and appeared on TV variety shows. In 1959, he was given a one-hour show on CBS called The Revlon Revue, Tonight with Belafonte. The program had dance numbers, folk songs, and both black and white performers. The program won an Emmy Award, the first for an African American. Revlon asked him for more shows. According to Belafonte, CBS stations in the South complained about his integrated cast. In interviews, he said he was asked to make it all black. He refused and left the show. Belafonte was one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s most trusted friends. In 1963, he helped organize the Freedom March on Washington, where King delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. Clarence Jones, who helped draft that speech, told NPR's Fresh Air in 2011 that it was Belafonte who explained to them how to use the power of television. He said, Jones recalled, "You have to look at this as a media event, not just as a march." And so, for example, Harry was responsible for assembling what was called the celebrity delegation, a lot of celebrities from Hollywood and performing arts. And he was very firm that they should sit in a certain strategic part on the podium, because he knew that the television cameras would pan to them, would look to them. And so he wanted to be sure that they were strategically situated, so that in looking at the celebrities, they'd also see a picture of the march and the other performers. When Dr. King was held in Birmingham jail, Belafonte raised money to bail him out. Coretta Scott King wrote in her autobiography, "Whenever we got into trouble or when tragedy struck, Harry had always come to our aid, his generous heart wide open." His relationship with the King family later turned rocky after Belafonte filed a lawsuit against King's estate in 2013 over the fate of 3 documents that the civil rights leader had given him, and which Belafonte tried to auction off in order to fund nonprofit work. The family claimed that the singer and actor had wrongfully acquired the documents. Belafonte and the estate settled out of the court the next year, with Belafonte retaining the materials. Throughout his career, Belafonte received numerous honors for his humanitarian work and the arts. He also helped organize Nelson Mandela's first trip to the US after he was released from prison. He was also an outspoken critic of people in power, including President Barack Obama, whom he once chastised for not showing enough concern for the poor. He singled out African American artists Jay-Z and Beyoncé, telling an interviewer that they've turned their back on social responsibility. Jay-Z responded on his track, Nickels and Dime, "Mr. Day-O, major fail." The two men eventually made up. Harry Belafonte was an activist into his 90s. He told NPR in 2011 that was something he learned from his mother. She was tenacious about her dignity not being crushed, and one day she said to me, she was talking about coming back from a day when she couldn't find work. Fighting back tears, she said, Don't ever let injustice go by unchanged. As his good friend Sidney Poitier once put it, Belafonte was an invaluable energy source and always a gutsy guy. Harry Belafonte is survived by his wife Pamela Frank, 4 children, 2 stepchildren, and 8 grandchildren. While primarily known for calypso, Belafonte recorded in many different genres including blues, folk, gospel, show tunes, and American standards. His second most popular hit, which came immediately after the Banana Boat song, was the comedic tune Mama Look at the Boo Boo, also known as Mama Look at the Boo Boo, originally recorded by Lord Melody in 1955, in which he sings humorously about misbehaving and disrespectful children. It reached number 11 on the pop chart. In 1959, Belafonte starred in Tonight with Belafonte, a nationally televised special that featured Odetta, who sang Waterboy, and who performed a duet with Belafonte of There's a Hole in My Bucket that hit the charts in 1961. Belafonte was the first Jamaican American to win an Emmy for Revlon Revue, Tonight with Belafonte in 1959. 2 live albums, both recorded at Carnegie Hall in 1959 and 1960, enjoyed critical and commercial success. From his 1959 album, Hava Nagila became part of his regular routine and one of his signature songs. He was one of many entertainers recruited by Frank Sinatra to perform at the inaugural gala of President John F. Kennedy in 1961. Later that year, RCA Victor released another calypso album, Jump Up Calypso, which went on to become another million seller. During the 1960s, he introduced several artists to the U.S. audience, most notably South African singer Miriam Makeba and Greek singer Nana Mouskouri. His album Midnight Special in 1962 included a young harmonica player named Bob Dylan. As the Beatles and other stars from Britain began to dominate the US pop charts, Belafonte's commercial success diminished. In 1964, Belafonte at the Greek Theatre was his last album to appear in Billboard's Top 40. His last hit single, A Strange Song, was released in 1967 and peaked at number 5 on the adult contemporary music charts. Belafonte received Grammy Awards for the albums Swing That Hammer and An Evening with Belafonte Makeba. The later album dealt with the political plight of black South Africans under apartheid. He earned 6 gold records. During the 1960s, Belafonte appeared on TV specials alongside artists such as Julie Andrews, Petula Clark, Lena Horne, and Nana Mouskouri. In 1967, Belafonte was the first non-classical artist to perform at the prestigious Saratoga Performing Arts Center in upstate New York, soon to be followed by concerts there by The Doors, The Fifth Dimension, The Who, and Janis Joplin. From February 5 to 9 in 1968, Belafonte guest hosted The Tonight Show, substituting for Johnny Carson. Among his interview guests were Martin Luther King Jr. and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Belafonte is said to have married politics and pop culture. Belafonte's political beliefs were greatly inspired by the singer, actor, and civil rights activist Paul Robeson, who mentored him. Robeson opposed not only racial prejudice in the United States, but also Western colonialism in Africa. He refused to perform in the American South from 1954 until 1961. In 1960, Belafonte appeared in a campaign commercial for Democratic presidential candidate John F. Kennedy. Kennedy later named Belafonte cultural advisor to the Peace Corps. Belafonte supported Lyndon B. Johnson for the 1964 United States presidential election. Belafonte gave the keynote address at the ACLU of Northern California's annual Bill of Rights Day celebration in December 2007 and was awarded the Chief Justice Earl Warren Civil Liberties Award. The 2011 Sundance Film Festival featured the documentary film Sing Your Song, a biographical film focusing on Belafonte's contribution to and his leadership in the civil rights movement in America and his endeavors to promote social justice globally. In 2011, Belafonte's memoir My Song was published by Knopf Books. Belafonte started his career in music as a club singer in New York to pay for his acting classes. The first time he appeared in front of an audience, he was backed by the Charlie Parker Band, which included Charlie Parker himself, Max Roach, and Miles Davis, among others. He launched his recording career as a pop singer on the Roost label in 1949, but quickly developed a keen interest in folk music, learning material through the Library of Congress American Folk Songs Archive. With guitarist and friend Millard Thomas, Belafonte soon made his debut at the legendary jazz club The Village Vanguard. He signed a contract with RCA Victor in 1953, recording regularly for the label until 1974. Belafonte also performed during the Rat Pack era in Las Vegas. Harry Belafonte, singer, actor, and activist's last words before he died. These are my last words. When we mourn those who die young, those who have been robbed of time, we weep for lost joys. We weep for opportunities and pleasure we ourselves have never known. We feel secure that somehow that young body would have known the yearning delight for which we searched in vain all our lives. We believe that the untried soul, trapped in its young prison, might have flown free and known the joy that we still seek.